Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. It is Friday, April 3rd, 2015, and I'm Leanne McAdoo. Here are tonight's top stories.
Tonight, the hypocrisy of the Iran agreement. Then, a victim of Cuba's internment camps speaks out. And is it entertainment or predictive programming? That's next on the Infowars Nightly News.
I got one that can see. Get in there and deal with them right now. Scanning. Control. Manipulate scientific data. Take over. Blast. Control. World government.
The United States, together with our allies and partners, has reached a historic understanding with Iran, which, if fully implemented, will prevent it from obtaining a nuclear weapon. The Islamic Republic of Iran has been advancing its nuclear program for decades. Today, after many months of tough, principled diplomacy, we have achieved the framework for that deal. And it is a good deal.
Well, just hours after President Obama trotted out to give that formal announcement, some cracks began to emerge in this preliminary negotiation. Now, the United States, they immediately insisted in public statements and a fact sheet that they released that the sanctions on the country would be suspended or phased out over time after a final deal is inked. And they said they'd also be leaving in place any possible punishing actions if Iran were to renege on the deal. But just a few hours after that, Iran's foreign minister, who was the country's chief representative at these talks, suggested on Twitter that that's not what he agreed to. And he kept tweeting things out like the sanctions are to be terminated without delay. We would see these sanctions lifted immediately. Now, when asked about this, the State Department spokesperson Marie Harf said, "Oh, well, I don't know what, I don't know what their misrepresentation are that they're telling to their citizens." She said she doesn't know what Iran might have claimed in their own fact sheet because she doesn't speak Farsi, which is obviously the native language there in Iran. I don't speak Farsi either, but I can read those tweets, which are right there in English. This is what he is immediately saying, countering the claims made by President Obama. And she also went on to say that she was not really concerned about how the country would sell the plan to its citizens. So should we be concerned about how our president is selling the plan to this nation's citizens? Now, basically, who is telling the truth about this deal? It seemed to have popped up out of nowhere. It's an about face was made practically overnight about making these nuclear negotiations with Iran. Now, Phyllis Bennis says that forces aligned in opposition to this Iranian agreement in Saudi Arabia, the United States, and Israel would rather see war than see Iran brought out of sanctions and back into play as a regional power.
What is threatened by an agreement like this is not the possibility of an Iranian nuclear weapon. All 16 of the U.S. Intelligence agencies agree that Iran has not even made the decision to try to build a nuclear weapon, let alone have the ability to do so right away. But it's the fear that, number one, it challenges Israel's nuclear hegemony in the region. Israel right now is the only nuclear weapons country in the region.
So Israel is obviously voicing their opinion that this is a move toward giving Iran nuclear weapons, and obviously we know the implications of what that could have for the region. But this is also signaling a shift away from the really tight relationship that the United States has had with Israel for more than half of a century. We've almost guaranteed to always be their ally and support them. Now, Kurt Nimmo points out the hypocrisy behind this Iranian nuclear agreement. The Obama administration admits that Iran is not developing nuclear weapons, but despite that reality, the U.S. and Israel continue to insist that this third world nation is a threat. But the U.S. and Israel are more of a threat than Iran. Now, this is basically what Nimmo is saying. These threats by Netanyahu is really to make sure that Israel is the only nuclear power in the region, and they want to force the neighboring countries to accept them as a state, despite the way that Israel has treated and continues to treat Palestinians and its neighbors, in particular Lebanon, which Israel has invaded on 5 different occasions. Now, Warren Moss notes that one wonders if the reasons why these big powers like to push Iran around so much is because of the fact that it has such a weak military. Now, he writes that China is estimated to have about 250 nuclear warheads, yet there's no call to impose sanctions on that communist tyranny. And maybe it's because it also has a military of more than 2 million active and 2 million reserve personnel, also armored fighting vehicles, aircraft, and naval vessels. Of course, Iran, on the other hand, has not attacked another nation in over 500 years, even though it was attacked with the blessing of the United States by Saddam Hussein's Iraq and has suffered economic sanctions that have been imposed on it by the United States and Europe. And lastly, the United States is the only nation to have ever used nuclear weapons. The Hiroshima and Nagasaki nuclear bombings targeted civilians and killed nearly 130,000 of them. Now, Russia, China, the UK, France, India, Pakistan, and Israel all have nuclear weapons. So one really has to wonder what's going on there, but we're definitely witnessing a major power shift in the region. And as Marie Harf herself pointed out, the State Department spokesperson, how are we supposed to believe the story that we're being sold about this agreement? Religious infighting in the Middle East has been tied to religious prophecies for centuries. Now, coming up, I'm going to report on this weekend's Blood Moon, which is the third in a tetrad series that falls on another auspicious date. And many believe that it has ties to the shifts in political power that we are witnessing right now.
Used since before the days of the Roman Empire to support the body's natural systems and enhance overall health. Introducing the new InfowarsLife.com oil of oregano formulation, a highly advanced nutraceutical form of this key herb that has been traditionally used by civilizations for thousands of years to promote health. We have now procured the most high quality and potent forms of oregano oil on the market, sourced from top leading manufacturers to ensure a concentrated level of bioactive ingredients, extracted directly from the wild herb and sealed in easy-to-use capsules. You will no longer need to endure the burning of liquid oregano on the tongue. Wild crafted from the Mediterranean oregano species that experts agree is one of the most powerful and most challenging to acquire. This winter season, it's more important than ever to secure this true form of oil of oregano. Now available in our limited first run at InfowarsLife.com. That's InfowarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.